All right, everybody. Hi. So we're going to do our first read of Monsters Are Due on Maple Street today. So we're going to go through our vocabulary lesson and doing our annotations like we used to do with our previous stories in quarters 1, 2, and 3. But again, we're doing this the Edpuzzle version because with me being live in person and having online students, I feel like this is the best method, and I think you guys get the most out of the lessons when we do them this way. So remember, I'm here live in the chat. Even though this is a video recording, we can still interact and ask questions. I just want to make sure you guys are getting the full lesson. So let's get started. So you're going to want to have open both your study sync, which again, you go through your class link, connected, launch your study sync, click on the little square that has the 4 dots, and you're going to go into your first read of Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. So you're going to want to have that open, as well as we're going to have the Nearpod open, which I'm dropping the link in the chat right now. So before we get started, welcome to the Twilight Zone.
Sometimes you need to get away from the kids for grown-up time. Or get away from the grown-ups for kid time. And just get away from home. Together. Vacation.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
All right, thought I'd play that fun little intro. Maybe you guys have heard it before. But again, our story is Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is a part of the Twilight Zone. So first things first, always remember your behavior. We want to make sure we're respecting each other. We're being attentive and paying attention in class. We have our cameras on if we can, and we're interacting in our Nearpod. Stay muted unless you're called on. You guys do have the raise the hand button. And remember, I'm live in the chat. If you have questions you need answered in the chat. So don't be afraid to ask. Our camera's on, your smiles are always great, but remember that engagement piece. We want to start this quarter strong. We want good grades. So make sure you're staying engaged, and just remember that the camera's on can help us do that. So our standards we're going to be working on in this story is we're going to be working as always on 6.1, which it's 6RL1, cite textual evidence, and remember using our inferences. 6RL4, which is what we're going to be doing most of today, is determining the meaning of words and phrases. We want to make sure we're paying attention to their connotative meaning, their denotative meaning, and we also want to pay attention, well, how does that impact our story, those word choices? And then lastly, 6.9 is compare and contrast different texts or different genres. So we're really going to want to pay attention to this story because we're going to be comparing it to another story that we've had in our past. So make sure you're taking your notes of what's happening. Our proficiency level. When we're determining our words, we not only need to be able to start here at minimally proficient in identifying those words and their literal meanings, but we also need to start working towards the connotative meanings. How does that change for us? And then work our way up to being proficient in determining the meaning of the words, including the figurative language, so the connotative, and analyzing how does that connotation impact our story. And then lastly, if we go into the highly proficient, we not only do all of this with the analyzation, but we also assess the effectiveness, evaluate the impact. So notice the words kind of change there, to assess and evaluate on top of analyzing. So the first thing first is you guys are going to answer your confidence level question. So I do want you to go ahead, answer the question. We're going to pause this video. So our vocabulary for today. Our academic language, we have compare and contrast. We have Venn diagram. We've already discussed media, which was yesterday. And then a playwright. What is a playwright? Our reading vocabulary, so the vocabulary you will see today, we have incriminate, insomnia, idiosyncrasy, dense, and contorted. So question breakdown. What is a prefix? What's a suffix? That's the first thing we need to look at when we look at these questions that we might see in our study sync. So this question here we have the Latin prefix in means in or into, and the Latin root crim means crime. The suffix ate used with a verb often means causes to become. Use the Latin root and suffix, determine meaning of the incriminate as it's used in the text. Write your definition of incriminate here and tell how you found it. So again, you see these questions often when we're going in and we're working on answering questions. You may even see these type of questions in the AZ Merit. So instead of just going and getting a dictionary or looking it up on Google, being able to break your words down like this may save you from doing all the above because you may find your answer here and reading the sentence without actually even having to look it up. So Latin influences. Remember, our prefix means the part of the word that's before the root. So that's going to be the beginning part of the word. The suffix means after the root. So that'll be the little piece that's at the end of the root. The root is our base of the word. So if you remember that tree diagram where I had the tree, it's the trunk of the tree actually. So you do have your roots that kind of help build up to it, but it's the solid part, okay? And then you might hear the word affix, and that's pieces we add to the root, which again are the pre and the suffix. So how do we answer this? We need to use our clues. So in means into or in. Crim means crime. And ate with a verb is to cause or become. So we would need to go to the text and read that within the text. So in the text it says this, Goodman. Now I suppose that's supposed to incriminate me. The light goes off, on and off. That really does it, doesn't it? He looks around the faces of the people. I just don't understand this. Look, you all know me. We've lived here for 5 years, right in this house. We're no different from any of the rest of you. We're no different at all, really. This whole thing is just weird. So what does it mean to incriminate someone? So incriminate means making someone guilty of an action. That would be in my own words, right? Because I used my clues, which if I go back here, we have the in, which means into or in. Crim means crime, so I think guilty when I think crime. And ate with the verb is to become, so you become in a crime. Okay, so then I read it in the sentence. Now I suppose that's supposed to incriminate me. The light goes on and off. That really does it, doesn't it? Incriminate means making someone guilty of an action. So what does the dictionary say? Incriminate, make someone appear guilty of a crime or wrongdoing, strongly imply the guilt of someone. So notice we have our words here that were in those Latin root prefix and suffix. We have the crime and to make someone, because remember it says it's a verb, the ate part of it. And then we know that with crime or being guilty of a crime implies guilt. So incriminate is making someone guilty of an action. So how confident are you? Let's do our confidence survey again to check and see how could you do the same thing with a word in a we do. So go ahead, answer the confidence survey question, and we'll come back. All right, so let's do this together. You guys are going to use your collaboration board, and I'm going to go ahead and read the question. So the Latin root tort or torque means to twist or turn. The Latin affix con means together. Use these meanings along with text clues, context clues in the text to determine the meaning of contorted as it is used in The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Write your definition of contorted here. So I want you guys to use those, and we're going to go ahead and go to see where is the word contorted in our text. So let me number it here, and we're going to go to paragraph number, here we go, 51. So Charlie looks around the circle of faces, his eyes frightened, his face contorted. But I didn't know who he was. I certainly didn't know who he was. He comes walking out of the darkness. How am I supposed to know who he was? He grabs Steve. Steve, you know why I shot. How was I supposed to know he wasn't a monster or something? So we're going to stop there because I don't want to go too far. Our word contorted is looks around the circle of faces, his eyes frightened, his face contorted. So let's go back and let's try to put this together. So his face is contorted, and it means tort means to twist or turn, and con means together. So what could we say his face is doing? So now I want to take this a step further because his face isn't necessarily just going in and actually twisting together according to the figurative language, right? It's impossible to twist your face together. So I want you to determine and define the meaning of the word here, but I also want you to tell me, what does that tell you about the connotative meaning? And if you were to use the connotation of the face twisting together, what does that mean? So go ahead, we're pausing here, take your time. So now it's going to be your turn. I want you to annotate Monsters Are Due on Maple Street using the vocabulary words. So this means you're going to highlight your words in purple and you're going to put definitions in your notes in your own words. Before you do that, I want you to go ahead and do your confidence survey, and together we're going to watch the intro of Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. So let me go ahead and play the intro.
Maple Street, a small American town, 1960. In the summer sun, children play in the streets and adults go about their day. A large shadow passes above them. A loud roar and a flash of light grip them in terror. Strange things begin to happen. The power has been cut. Cars and lawnmowers stop running. Rumors spread of an alien invasion. But where does the real danger lie? Who will fall victim to their own fears? Find out. Read Rod Serling's chilling teleplay, The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
All right, so you guys are going to go ahead and do your reading. So you'll come here to the read portion. I want you guys, it's easier to number these paragraphs, but I want you to actually listen to the audio version first. So always remember you can audio and then it'll highlight if you click the highlight button and it'll read it to you. Then I want you to go back and annotate. So just remember your annotation button needs to be selected and you need to be able to annotate. If you're using a PC at home, so a computer or a laptop, you will have to actually click on the blue dots to get the area to line and then double click. But if you are using your iPad, you should just be able to double click the word. It'll bring it up. We're going to change our highlight color to purple because it is vocabulary. and then you will put the definition in your own words. So incriminate, we said, was or is to make someone guilty of an action. Once you type that in, you hit create note, and it'll go ahead and underline that for you and highlight it. So you will be left to do the rest of the vocabulary. When you complete this, please take screenshots of your work, and I would like you to send it to my email. So at this point, I'm going to drop my email into the chat. This is your time to use wisely, so use your class time wisely and go ahead and do your annotations of your vocabulary. We'll talk more about how those vocabulary words enhance the meanings as we rise up to our proficient levels starting next week. Thanks, guys.